When we launched the tech, the first time Maina Kageni advertises it, we are on radio, TV. The first day of the launch, we get 20,000 registrations. The system goes down. We never thought it would grow big. Corporates take long, especially big corporates like KCB. Closing that deal has taken 6 months. Integration has taken another 6 months. And we haven't gone live yet. So that's an year because you find these corporates have other partners, and you as a startup aren't a priority. So for B2B, I'd advise look at startups that need your service, or startups that are in an industry of a corporate that you're aiming to. So for example, us. We want to approach DHL, but DHL will take time to close. So the first guys we are looking at would be a startup close to DHL. And we signed an MOU with a startup called Yobante Express. Did a pilot that would have done with DHL, and it was successful. So you see, reaching your fellow peer startups who you can provide a service for them is easier than reaching out to a corporate. So that's the advice I would say. Collaboration amongst startups to provide that revenue that gives a proof of concept that you can approach a corporate. I think the revenue that post office gets from mail might be at 10%. But e-commerce is growing at a tremendous rate. But other solutions like the DHLs and FedEx, it's expensive. So paying for a small package less than 25 kilos might cost you 4,000 bob, okay? But if you put it through the postal system, it might cost you only 100 bob. For example, I shop on Alibaba or AliExpress. I choose the option China Post. That item will be shipped free. And when that item arrives at the post office, if it's an MPost address, you get a notification that the item is there. Okay? Working with governments are not easy, especially post offices which are archaic. Change management is usually a problem. So our product runs on an annual subscription fee that normally goes to government, where government now splits that to us. It has been kind of a headache. You get paid months later and you find yourself still straining, and you still have to scale.
Today's guest, founder and CEO of MPost, Twahir Mohamed. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you, Gideon. It's a pleasure to be here. Yep.
Tell us about MPost. What does the product do? Who is it for? And what's the main problem you're helping solve?
So MPost, we convert mobile number into official postal addresses. These postal addresses are recognized by government and private sector. It helps you gain government documents where you are requested for a PO box. You are able to give the mobile phone number as a PO box, and also import or shop online in websites such as Alibaba, AliExpress, Amazon, because now you have a unique, verifiable digital address in your mobile phone. So the problem we're solving is over 90% of the world lacks a verifiable address. And this came about when my cousin lost a government job back in 2013, whereby he applied for the job, passed the interview, and finally, when he was requested for a PO box, he gave my dad's PO box, which he normally checks every quarter. So after that, my dad, during his usual routine, finds my cousin's letter, which had expired 3 months later. So I started asking questions like, why do we share PO boxes? Why do we have a system of addressing like having PO boxes instead of letters coming to the physical addresses? By then, in 2016, mobile penetration was at 80%, and M-Pesa was a hit happening then, traction on M-Pesa, which turns mobile phone numbers into bank accounts.
Into
So
banks, yeah.
I said, why don't we convert them into virtual addresses? And that's where MPost was born. Yeah.
Super cool story. I came across the founding story, as you mentioned, a few weeks ago, and it's quite sad, but also equally as funny. How the light bulb moment came down to you. So I'm curious, how do you go from okay, I noticed there's a problem, to actually building an MVP and acquiring your first user or partner?
Yeah. So funny enough, when the idea popped up, we were able to develop a minimum viable product, develop it. Then we approached the post office. But before approaching the post office of Kenya, we had to we got a co-founder who is a lawyer, John Wambugu, uh, who advised us that it is important to patent this idea. So number one, we did the IP, which was get the copyright, trademarks, and the patent for or file a patent for it before approaching the post office. So when we approached the Kenyan post office with a minimal MVP, they told us, "Hey, does this thing really work? Would it work? Show us how it works." So we were given an office at City Square in town.
Yeah.
It was the office was fourth floor without a lift and anything, small room, and we were told we give you 3 months. We want 1,500 subscribers. So went set up our office there, and guess what? In 1 week, we got the 1,500 subscribers. So so from that 1 week, we felt that hey, this has a potential of growing and scaling,
Yeah.
and the post office was really surprised, and immediately they gave us a pilot contract. Yeah.
Super cool stuff. Super cool stuff. How did you get the first 1,500? How were you selling them on the idea of MPost?
Yeah, so the first 1,500, as I told you, City Square, there is a postal hall. So the first 1,500, we got a sales team of 10 with a project manager who's head of sales. Told them, hey, you have people coming in the post office hall. We have a Huduma center. Everyone asking for a passport, driver's license, or even what do you call this? Police document or abstract are requested for a PO box. So that would be your first customer, and that's how we were able to capture and the first 1,500. Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, you have the product built and the first few users are coming in. How are you sustaining yourselves as founders? Can you break down what your monthly expenses look like and how you are catering for them?
So then our monthly expenses were at $7,000 because remember we were working with a minimum viable product, no AWS. Our tech was hosted on a cPanel, uh, local hosting. Shout
Yeah.
out to Kenya Web Experts. Everyone has a product, so goes to them
Yeah.
first. Then after that, so it was at 7,000. We had our salespeople being paid on commission based per address
Yeah.
being sold. The project manager is the one who had a monthly salary. The tech team was myself, who was the CTO then, CTO
Okay.
founder. And we had CEO, and we had the project manager. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I'm guessing you started off bootstrapped.
Yes, we started off bootstrapped.
Okay.
Everything from tech was bootstrapping. from even ourselves. We weren't calling it a salary, we were calling it an allowance. So that way, then when we started earning revenue, is when we started coming up with a structure of the organization. So funny thing, before we got our pilot contract, we didn't
Yeah.
even have a company set up.
Wait, had you filed for your copyright at this time?
Yeah, yeah.
Had
So we hadn't filed for the copyright. So we had developed the MVP, but hadn't filed for the copyright. So while we are filing for the copyright, we just got a unique name, TAS Technologies. So and we said we know this. No one has registered such a company. Let's put it on the copyright and even the contract. Then we'll file it later. Uh, it was really something that we learned
yeah.
immediately when we brought on board a legal co-founder who is John Wambu. Yeah.
Okay. Other than the Kenyan Postal Service, you have some other pretty big partners and users. I know Safaricom and Uber also your partners. Could you break down what this process looks like for you from the very beginning, identifying a company as an ICP to actually closing the deal? What does that look like, and what are like the average timeframes for you?
Okay. We have partners from government partners to banking partners to last mile partners. Remember, our product is giving out an identity to each individual to receive mail or parcels, or even for KYC. So as we went on with MPost, then we realized that hey, our customers need not only need an address but value adds. So the first value add was last mile delivery. How MPost works is you register 30 seconds, you convert your mobile number into an address, we attach it to a post office nearest you. So when we launched, then Safaricom realized that hey, this address can be used for e-commerce, and that time M-Pesa was integrating with AliExpress.
Yeah.
So shop on AliExpress, ship with M-Post, pay with M-Pesa. So at that point is uh, we were lucky enough that our product was standing out because it was unique and solving a problem. So they approached us and said we pilot with them. Then they agreed. We agreed. Then we had that integration done on M-Pesa Mini app. So when the first time we rolled out, people shipped through AliExpress, through
Yeah.
MPost, which uses the postal network. The items arrive at your chosen post office. So normally you should get an alert when that item arrives at the post office. Then we had a lot of requests of last mile delivery from that experiment. So then we said, hey, we can use Uber. So we approached Uber. It took around 3 months to close. But the problem with Uber was we could not do integrations because their tech is based outside Kenya.
So no native integrations.
Yes. So what we used to do was a manual allocation of these parcels, and
Yeah.
so we decided to develop also our last mile delivery application, where now we also onboarded our own riders who are border riders. So that's how it came to be. So the Uber gave birth to our own last mile, which was
Yeah.
Tapa Delivery, which gave jobs to or gig work to border riders.
Okay.
Other partnerships like KCB, uh, yes, we approach them. It takes long. Corporates take long to, especially big corporates. So the average, like KCB, closing that deal has taken 6 months.
Oh wow.
Integration has taken another 6 months, and we haven't gone live yet. So that's an year, because you find these corporates have other partners, and you as a startup aren't a priority, and they tend to lean towards their side more than our side. But we keep pushing. So we managed to export this technology to Rwanda. So a country like Rwanda, I'm finding it easier closing these deals. It takes up to maximum a month.
Yeah.
So we've recently gone live on Irembo, which is the eCitizen of Rwanda.
Super cool
Uh,
stuff. Congrats on that. Congrats on that.
yeah,
I want to stop you there on the Rwanda talk because I want to circle back on that. But before I
yeah.
do, so for what you're saying, for the founders who are listening to this right now, who are building it for enterprise, or maybe they're building an AI product for B2B, how should they approach closing fast deals, right? So you've mentioned it can drag all the way up to 12 months, right? You've been going for a year with KCB, and no closing yet, or you're not live yet. How should they approach partnerships? How should they approach their initial fast users and onboarding them as quick as possible to keep that momentum going?
So for B2B, I'd advise look at startups that are doing that need your service, or startups that are in an industry of a corporate that you're aiming to. So, for example, us, we are aiming to look at courier companies, big courier companies. But
Yeah.
our first, we have courier startups. So our first aim, we want to approach DHL, but DHL will take time to close. So the first guys we are looking at would be a startup close to DHL. And we signed an MOU with a startup called Yobante Express, who we were in the same accelerator startup bootcamp. So it
Hmm.
is easy to reach out to them. They had raised funds and they had deep pockets, signed
Yeah.
an MOU, did a pilot that would have done with DHL, and it was successful. So even in scaling, because Yobante was in where do you call it, in 13 African countries then by the time we were signing the MOU. So
Yeah.
we piloted in a country where we don't have presence, which is Zambia, and the pilot was successful. So you see, reaching your fellow peer startups who are you can provide a service for them is easier than reaching out to a corporate, and that already starts generating revenues. So that's the advice I would say: collaboration amongst startups to provide that revenue that gives a proof of concept that you can approach a corporate easily, yeah, and close it faster. Because now the corporate will be coming to you as a service provider. They'll be the ones who are approaching you. It's the same thing with us in our expansion. Burundi approached us because they saw what was happening in Kenya and Rwanda. Same as now DRC, who have approached us. So initial pilots are easier to close with fellow peer startups and founders. Yeah.
Okay, so fast forward a few years, you've built a product, you've closed quite a few partnerships, and you end up raising your Series A. You have $1 million in your back pocket. Where did you go from there?
So we raised that $1 million before even scaling to other countries. So remember, I was telling you the tech was actually a story about the tech. When we
Yeah.
launched the tech, the first time Maina Kageni advertises it. We on radio, TV, first day,
Oh wow.
launched by the Minister of
This is like
ICT.
organic, not a paid ad.
So it was paid for that.
Okay, so it was paid. Okay.
But it's a launch. It's a government body launching a startup
Yeah.
collaboration. That's the
Yeah.
the Postal Corporation of Kenya with MPost. So people register. The first day of the launch, we get 20,000 registrations. The system goes
Wow.
down. But, but we had a good launch. So in the back
Were
end,
you not prepared?
no, we were. I told you we were on
Oh,
cPanel.
okay, yeah, yeah, okay.
Because
You had not yet migrated yet. Okay.
no one had predicted the traffic. We
Yeah.
were used to our 1,500 registrations, 2,000. We never thought it would grow big. So the minister calls us into the office and tells us, "Hey guys, we thought that he's going to say we cancel this thing." He said no. He said, "Hey guys, we. It seems if it was not, if it wasn't your product, we would have known that, or if it was an off-the-shelf product, it would have gone smoothly. But because
Mm.
you are the ones who developed the product, I expected it to go down. So grow your product organically without advertising, but also correct." And that's when we started correcting stuff, automating. Then we didn't have SDK push in 2016. We never had
Yeah.
the SDK push. There was something called the broker to integrate M-Pesa
Mm.
and applications, which was hectic. There was no Daraja.
It wasn't as seamless. Yeah.
It wasn't seamless. So we grew organically from the 20,000 till 2019 when we raised our funds. We were at 40,000 users, entered an accelerator called Startup Bootcamp Africa
Yeah.
in South Africa. We were the second cohort then, and then we opened out. We were calling it a Series A then, but it was essentially a seed round. We raised the $1.9 million. So that $1.9 million went to fund to get the AWS servers, better
Yeah.
servers, get a good team, and now scale into now new territories like Rwanda, and also fund research and development such as the last mile and what we had with Alibaba and M-Pesa. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So two questions. I want to hone in on the growth side of things, right? You did an ad on radio and that performed amazingly well. Two questions. One, would you, if you were in that position again, is that something you'd do again? And then secondly, how does that perform compared to like social media ads?
Social media is an enhancement. People still go to traditional media, especially with a product like ours,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you want everyone. It's a B2C product. When we launched, you want everyone onboarded. So to create awareness about your product is really important. So traditional media, radio, especially during prime time, that still works. Then also social media complements what you're doing on the primary media. We had a challenge. We started off with social media, and
yeah,
even in a market like Rwanda or Kenya, people were like, "Is this a scam? Is this true?" So there is some trust in mainstream media. When someone sees it on mainstream media, they see it on social media, and then they see it on a billboard. It creates
yeah.
a certain trust. That trust is built up. It helps also build up corporate partnerships. And when you announce a corporate partnership through press releases, it creates a whole trust ecosystem. So
Mm,
apart from technology, then the business side now kicks in, which is building trust, ensuring your tech delivers to the end consumer what
yeah,
they are requesting. Yeah. So social media in okay from 2016 to around pre we can say pre-COVID, social media wasn't the mainstream, but I can say
yeah.
right now we are seeing a shift where social media is becoming mainstream, and then traditional media may be secondary. So between 2022 to right now, there has been a major shift to where if you're not on social media, then it creates a bit of also another trust issue. So there are two different ways: pre-COVID and post-COVID. Yeah.
Okay. Now I want to finally go back to Rwanda. I want to touch on Rwanda. 2 years ago, you moved your operations from Nairobi to Kigali. Looking back now, is that a choice you would make again if you had to?
Yes, I would make the same choice again.
Why is that?
Um, Ru- Rwanda is a different ball game. Especially, I can tell you when first I heard of the Rwandan market, uh, there are clear guidelines of what you can follow. So, for example, I registered my company, subsidiary company, operational company in Kenya online. I didn't have to know anyone. I
Yeah.
just registered, got my certificate. I had a company before landing in Rwanda. Then came in, went, pitched to the post office, and
Yeah.
without knowing anyone, went through.
What's
Loved
I
it,
mean,
loved
I,
the idea.
I, I'm in awe. I'm in awe of all of this.
Remember, this is a government body. We've launched with the National Post Office,
Yeah.
uh, pitched to the e-Repo, really lovely organization, dashboards, all project management, integrated in time. We've gone live. The support is immense in terms of even taxes.
Yeah.
We work with Kigali International Finance Corporation, whereby they have tax incentives, for example, on
Wow.
corporate tax.
Yeah.
Uh, if you hold even capital gains taxes, all that is all in one package. So it's also a beautiful country to be in. Um, and I think that choice was right to make it. So even closing B2B partnership is more easier because
Yeah.
the processes are well defined if you are starting a startup. And then where our headquarters is, Northcan, it reminds me of the old iHub, which was there and the vibe.
Yeah.
So it creates that system. And we don't only have Rwandans here. We have Nigerians, we have everyone.
Hmm.
So it's a melting point right now. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's a good place to be. Yeah. And then
The, the
people
the one
ask
pushback
me
I'd
why
have,
Rwanda.
yeah,
Yeah.
the one pushback I'd
Yeah.
have is
Yeah. Yeah.
market size, market opportunity.
I knew you're
how do
going
you
to say that. Yeah.
how are you thinking about
So
that? How do you put that into perspective?
market size, Rwanda is a good place. Small market, but a good place to implement your vision so that you're able to export your vision to, how it would work in a perfect scenario. So, for
Hmm.
example, integrating onto Irembo and having MPost as a, what do you call it, a digital KYC for government. So you get that chance to implement and see how it would work. If it
Yeah.
fails, well and good. If it succeeds, well and good. And now that gives you a chance to export. If it fails, you can rectify, and the system here allows you to rectify. So, for example, Rwanda has enabled us, our integration in Rwanda has enabled us also to show where we founded from eCitizen that this can work.
Yeah.
You see. So I think maybe with the small population and market size, it allows you to make mistakes, rectify
Mm.
and perfect, to export it as to a larger market like Kenya. So right now it's working on Irembo in Rwanda. eCitizen is interested to see how we can work with that. Yeah.
I like that phrasing a lot. Kind of using Rwanda as a playground to test out your ideas before you export them to other African markets. That makes a lot of sense. How do you navigate filing for IP when setting up in other countries? So, for example, okay, I know Rwanda would probably be seamless, but let's say you whatever other country MPost is currently live. How did you navigate that? Did you have to have physical presence?
Filing for IP, we have an organization called the African Intellectual Property Organization, ARIPO. So the best thing is once you have your local trademarks, go through now through Kenya Intellectual Property Institute. Now you can file on ARIPO. Once you file on ARIPO, which Kenya belongs to, then it covers you in Africa and also covers you worldwide because ARIPO belongs to the World Intellectual Property Organization. So that IP is well covered. So that covers you across the globe here.
Okay, noted, noted. What have been some of the growth pains you've experienced when scaling or trying to scale MPost?
As usual, number one, working with governments are not easy, especially post offices, which are archaic. Change management is usually a problem. So you have to do continuous training. It's for someone in the startup world where you want things to move quickly,
Yeah,
that's a pain point. The second thing is um, cash flows. Working with government is different. So our product runs on an annual subscription fee that normally goes to government, where government now splits that to us. It has been kind of
mm,
a headache.
yeah,
You get paid 3 months later, and you find yourself still straining and you still have to scale and you still have a team to maintain. So it
yeah,
becomes, as a founder, you get a bit strained on that. But people ask me, why work with government? Remember, our solution now is recognized by government and across the globe by the
yeah,
fact that we are working with national post offices and also recognized by the private sector. So it gives us an advantage. But there is also a bigger strategy, which we want to be the biggest source of truth in verifiable addresses in Africa. So for us, scaling, having government as partner, having the approval from the Universal Postal Union to roll out with them, and having a support from them, then it gives us an edge. The last pain point uh, would be team. Maintaining a team in a startup is really hard because they get better offers and leave. So the transition of team members is really high. So it becomes hard. But the good thing, our team members don't leave with. So there's that history. So former team members still communicate with our current team members to build
yeah,
history. So we become kind of family. We become
yeah.
family. Uh, we know, learn about each other, but it's also a pain point when you get used to a team. Yeah.
Okay. Now this isn't your first time working with the Kenyan government. Your partnership with Posta. Long before MPost, you developed the Conversity website, and I believe you also built the architecture for what would become the NTSA. How did all this happen?
So fun. So when I'm an JKU graduate and
Okay.
second lot actually, Bachelor of
Wow.
Science
So
ICT.
ever?
Yeah. So we
What
are a
is this?
bit.
Early 2000s?
No, 2006.
2006. Okay.
Yeah, so 2006. That was IT, Bachelor of Science of IT was
Yeah.
just introduced in early 2000. So guys were graduating. The first lot graduating in 2005, and us
Yes.
six. So then guys were hotcakes, but I decided to go into entrepreneurship. I started a website called Kenya Classifieds, which was like the OLX or Craigslist then. But then a friend of mine got wind, saw my entrepreneurship skills, and I was good at building websites. And I was invited for an interview with the World Bank. I was told it's a consultancy, so it won't take much of my time.
Yeah.
So little did I know was it would be a full time job. So I dropped somehow getting into the World Bank. I became the webmaster of the Kenyan
Yeah.
government and working under the Kenya ICT board. And I used to build products for various projects running under the Kenya ICT board. So we had the digital villages pillar where they were setting up cyber cafes. Then I built the portal for that, shared services. I built stuff for the project manager. Konza City, that's where I built that product.
Yeah.
And NTSA, so with the NTSA, we built the Teams product, which is the Transport Information Management System, which we presented to the World Bank, which was funded by the World Bank. Same as eCitizen, it was funded by the World. So we built the minimum product, went and
Yeah.
pitched to World Bank and Professor Bitange Demo and Victor
Hmm.
Chialo, because my contract was based under the Kenya Infrastructure uh, in Kenya Infrastructure Program, which was building digital infrastructure. So my paycheck was coming from the World Bank. So I used to build any idea the project managers come, we build, go pitch, we get funding for it. And that's how I ended up building all those products, the initial products of that. So even eCitizen, that then after that they send out a tender, government send out a tender through the funding, then they build the actual product. So that's how I ended up building all those products initially. And I can say it gave me also an opportunity to visit Silicon Valley then.
Oh, wow.
We were guys to visit now X, Twitter. We were the first Africans to visit Twitter officially, met the vice president.
Hmm.
Uh, we, at the same time, met the YouTube founder who just exited YouTube to Google. And he was just from holiday and he was explaining how the ecosystem is. And I think then is when I fell in love with the startup world, where I wanted to build product and exit a product. Yeah.
Okay, so how do you go from building guardrails for or MVPs for the Kenyan government to I'm now building my own product for the Kenyan government? What was that process, or what was that transition? Number one, and then number two, do you think that the relationship that you had with the Kenyan government before kind of helped sell MPost?
Not the relationship with government, but it is the knowing the government systems. So I knew there was something called the public-private partnerships,
Yeah.
whereby government does not like to spend money. If you want government to pay you, it will be a long process, and they'll have to come up with technical documents, go into a procurement uh, system. So when remember the problem was with my cousin having lost her job, then got the
Yeah.
idea that this is a unique product.
Yeah.
I knew this idea hasn't been done. So we got the IP, and I knew having the IP, we would have to do a public private partnership. And this uh, reduces the closing time between you and government. So the me participating in all those programs, shared services, digital villages, content standard, uh, all that time participating in some tender processes, that got me knowledge that hey, this is a way where young people can use to get their unique ideas into government, which is the PPP here.
So then how do you go from, okay, I'm getting a check from the World Bank to, now I don't want a check, I want to build my own thing and actually exit. Is it the trip to Silicon Valley that kind of made that shift in your head?
Yes. So that made the shift. And remember also at this time, there was a program for the World Bank called Tanda, which was
Mm.
encouraging. As soon as we came from Silicon Valley, there was a program called Tanda where people were building ideas and they were getting funded by the Kenya ICT board. So the guys who got around 8 million shillings for their
Oh,
products,
wait,
10
how long ago
people.
is this?
So I realized, yeah,
How long ago was this?
pardon.
How long ago was
This
this?
was in 2012, 2012,
Okay. Oh.
2012. So they were like, just look up the Tanda program. That's when them now, after our trip to Silicon Valley and coming back, then
Mm.
we pitched to World Bank that they can set aside money for entrepreneurs. So Kenya ICT ran a call for application for entrepreneurs, and they would
Hmm.
get a whole funding without equity free funding of 8 million
I had no
shillings.
idea the Kenyan government was doing this in 2012.
Yeah. Then that's what I'm telling you. The ecosystem then was
Yeah.
buzzing, which should have gone on until today. And
Yeah.
that's what we are finding here in Rwanda. Rwanda have a local VC, a government-backed VC fund where they support their own entrepreneurs. So
Wow.
they buy equity or participate into funding rounds. You see,
I I think I need to start packing my bags to here.
Kenya had started that with something called the Tanda grant.
Yeah.
And we supported, I remember we got over 800 applications, only
Mm.
10 startups. We never called them business startups then, we called them IT enabled businesses, but essentially they were startups.
Yeah.
So they got the grant, big fanfare, 8 million shillings, build your business. And I think 2 or 3 are surviving still. So they're still there. So they built the businesses, and that's when my curiosity said, "Hey, I saw the ecosystem coming up. Let me venture into now building products." So when my contract ended, I never reapplied. I just transitioned into startup. Yeah.
Now, I'd say there's a bit of a disconnect between the postal service and my generation, right? I can't remember the last time I sent or received a letter. Actually, I think the only one time I've sent a letter was a class 4 school trip. And afterwards, after I just sent in the letter, I called my uncle, like, have you received it? Only to learn that it will take
Yeah.
days. So with that in mind, how is MPost reimagining this experience? What features or use cases are people finding the most value in?
So the main feature is the post office network is the biggest network across the globe. There is no
Hmm.
country without a post office.
Yeah.
So Number two, the post office is a human right. So as long as humanity exists, the post office will always exist. Yes, males have actually dropped immensely. I think the revenue that post office gets from mail might be at 10%, but
Oh wow.
e-commerce is growing at a tremendous rate.
Yeah.
But other solutions like the DHLs and FedEx for a normal Gen Z, normal millennial, normal Gen Alpha, even my dad, it's expensive. So paying for a package of a small package less than 25 kilos might cost you 4,000 bob. Okay, but
Yeah.
if you put it through the postal system, it might cost you only 100 bob.
Got you.
So, for example, I shop on Alibaba or AliExpress. I
Hmm.
choose the option China Post. I put PO Box, my mobile number, and the postal code. That item will be shipped free.
Wait, really?
Yes.
I had like is this to
And
like is there a max of the weight you can do this with?
so maximum weight is 25 kilo.
Okay. But still that's
So when
huge.
that's huge. And when that item arrives at the post office, if it's an MPost address, you get a notification that the item is there. Okay.
Yeah.
You can go, if it's something that is taxable, then just go to the post office. There is a tax office there, which it's a one-stop shop. Pay the
Yeah.
taxes and get your parcel. If it's free, if it's tax-free, you just
Yeah.
pay a handling fee of 100 bob, and you're okay. So a
Wow. I
hundred bob
yeah.
and $40.
There's a
Uh,
huge gap. Yeah.
and this year we want to do a lot of awareness in terms of that to drive numbers into our platform. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
as you said, our generations would ask you, why do I need a postal address? Why? But the truth is, the postal address, number one, would be good for your KYC for government. If you walk to government, they'll ask you for a PO box. And the
yeah.
reason why they have not insisted that everyone should have their own unique PO box is the post
Mm.
office could not build. We have how many million adults in Kenya? You can imagine building all those physical
Tens of
boxes.
millions. Yeah. Yeah.
It's costly. Now they have a solution in MPost. Yeah.
Got you. Got you. I think definitely you need to hone down on that feature. I think it makes a lot of sense because I mean when I ship from outside, I'm paying $5 to $20 in shipping fees alone. So I mean now I know of MPost, right? Um,
Yeah.
so thank you for that eye-opening information. So that's what most people are seeing the value in MPost. It's the e-commerce shipping.
It's the e-commerce shipping. The rest, B2B,
Yeah.
B2Bs will see value in terms of address verification. Yeah.
Got you. Got you. Twahir, this has been an amazing conversation. It's been exciting to see Africa's potential through your perspective. One last question. Where can listeners find you online if they want to reach out or learn more?
They can reach out on LinkedIn, Twahir Mohamed, everything single, Mohammed single letter. I know there's a double M somewhere.
Yeah.
People write with double M, but my Mohammed is Twahir Mohamed, as it is. My Twitter, my X account is Twahir Mohamed 7. You can reach out also there. Yeah. Or
And I
also
believe
visit
MPost
our
is
website.
mpost.com.
It's mpost.africa.
Mpost.africa. Noted. I'll
Correct.
also leave all the links in the
Yes.
description. Thank you again, Twahir, for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for
All right.
inviting me. And it was